I've literally interviewed everybody from the Nicki Minaj's. I've interviewed Drake. I've got a chance to interview Will Smith. I had no plan. My thing was, I will be more mad at myself if I look back and I did not jump. One thing that I remember my mentor, my pastor at the time told me before I got in radio, I'm there for a purpose. And so myself and one other guy, we would literally go into all the high schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools, and we would make sure that we were growing kids and being this really, really great positive example and also like giving them hope. And so I tell everybody, no matter how successful you are, no matter how popular you are, if you feel a hole in your heart, it's probably because you're doing it for you.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of As the Leader Grows. I have got a phenomenal guest for you, my friend Lady Jade, all the way from Dallas, Texas. She is a real estate investor, agent, speaker, media personality, and she spent 19 years on hip hop radio being the voice of Dallas, Texas. What's up, girl? How are you doing?
I cannot believe I am on Ken's podcast. Like, Mom, I made it, Mama.
Stop it. Hey, talk to me about, we were talking a little bit off of air. Talk to me about like the real estate investing, the agent. Okay, yeah, that's great. We'll talk about entrepreneurship. Right. I want to hear about what it was like to be like a DJ in Dallas and like you're the voice. And did you go out in public and like hang out and you started talking and people went, I know that voice?
Yes, everywhere I go, honestly, people say that, which I don't understand. They know my voice and then they know my laugh. Those are the two things that I get more than anything, is that I have a distinct voice and a distinct laugh. So yeah.
Well, talk to me. How'd you get in radio?
So, long story short, when I was in college, I thought I was going to do television, and I got a chance to intern at a radio station in San Antonio, Texas. I guess the way that I looked at it, I was like, this will be my end to media. And God had other plans for me, in all honesty. So I did about a year and a half while I was in college. And when I graduated, I honestly was like, this is what I know, because I never wanted to do radio. People ask me all the time, like, was this your childhood dream? And I always say, no, like radio picked me. You know what I mean? Like God definitely had a plan for my life. And so I applied at the radio station, at the hip hop radio station, because that's kind of what I knew here in Dallas, the station that I grew up on. And I got hired. And Ken, I started from the bottom, okay? I was hanging banners. I was driving trucks. I was doing all of that. And every time I turned around, God was opening another door. Funny story. I remember there was an afternoon position available. And the program director at the time came and he said, actually it was a night show. He said, it's going to be between you and this other guy. And he said, you're more Dallas. You give us more of that edge, but he's more polished. And I remember looking at him and saying, hey, no offense, it's not even really up to you. It's what God has for my life. And he was like, oh, there you go with that Bible stuff, right? And I'm like, and guess what? I actually got the slide. So did nights. I've done overnight shifts. And then for 16 years, I actually did a nationally syndicated morning show. So yeah, it was a blast.
So my dad was a DJ, was the radio voice for the Lone Ranger on all the Chrysler commercials in the 70s. So I love radio. So radio is like my jam. I've been told I have a face for radio, but I want to ask you.
That is not true. Don't let people tell you that.
I'm just joking. So you spent all of those years kind of being the morning show person in Dallas. Like, what were some of the cool people you got to interview or some of the cool experiences that you got when you got to be in that position for that long?
So, Ken, I've literally interviewed everybody. I mean, when it comes to hip hop, it's pretty much the same people from the Nicki Minaj's. I've interviewed Drake. I've got a chance to interview Will Smith. I mean, I literally got a chance to interview all the celebrities. But this is going to sound so corny. That was not my favorite part of the job. Like, honestly, That part of the job gave me so much anxiety. My favorite part of being on the radio, I've always had this innate love for kids. Matter of fact, I thought I was going to be a school teacher at one point in time. My mom was a school teacher growing up. And so one thing that I remember my mentor, my pastor at the time told me before I got in radio, I'm there for a purpose, right? Now, they didn't hire me to be a preacher, but I am there to be a light in a dark place. And I always knew that, right? And so I always wanted to use my platform and people hearing me every single day for really the greater good of people. And so my favorite part of the job was actually the access that I got to going into the schools and talking to our youth and our future generation. And I know it sounds kind of corny and it kind of, deflates the story of like all the fun. And don't get it twisted. Like I had fun while I was on the radio,
Yeah.
but I always knew that it was bigger than me. I always knew that God was like literally giving me, and in a very intentional way, giving me a platform so that I could grow people. And so myself and one other guy, we would literally go into all the high schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools, and we would make sure that we were growing kids and being this really, really great positive example. And also like giving them hope. I'm no better than anybody in this city.
Yeah.
Like if I can be in this position, if I can do this, you can do anything you put your mind to, and just exposing them to, different opportunities and stuff.
How fulfilling was that to be able to go into schools and be able to take the position God gave you and the notoriety and the fame and all the stuff in your city? How fulfilling was that to be able to make a difference like that in the lives of teenagers and students?
Honestly, Ken, I would say it's indescribable. Whenever you get an opportunity, if you're not doing it for the greater good of someone else, money is cool. Money is great. Let's not lie. Money is great. Like we love money, right? It gives us access. There are really positive things about money, but making money and nobody else gets a chance to experience everything or get exposed to the things you get exposed to, that gets lonely. So getting a chance to like really serve my purpose in my position, there's no greater feeling. And so I tell everybody, no matter how successful you are, no matter how popular you are, if you feel a hole in your heart, it's probably because you're doing it for you. And so when you pour into other people and, when you know that your purpose is really outside of yourself, and in all honesty, I can't tell people what to believe, but, for me, I understood that it was kingdom building, then that is when I have my happiest moments. I have made a lot of money in my career, but I've also had a lot of moments where I just wasn't fulfilled. And I'm telling you, anytime I would go serve, pour, speak to, and it was about somebody else, it would be like, okay, I get it. I understand why I can get so stressed sometimes. I understand why this is not easy all the time because I'm being fought, you know what I mean? By something that's bigger than me. So yeah, it was amazing.
One of the things when I pastored for a long time. When I pastored, one of the things I would tell people, and psychologists even do this today, like if people struggle with depression or anxiety, go serve someone else. And it's amazing what happens. Listen, I've been on the mission field to Colombia. I've been to Guatemala. I've been to Haiti several times. I've done a lot of missions work here in Atlanta at Safe House, do the homeless ministry. Every time we go, and every time I would take a group of students or take a group of adults to go, we would be there for 7 to 10 days ministering to people, but it always really did more for us than it even did for the people that we were there.
Ken, that is so
because of the fulfillment. Yeah.
That is so, I'm so glad you said that. You think you're going in there to help other people. They make you a better person. That is so, I'm so glad you said that. That is so good. Oh my gosh.
I remember one time I took my daughter, we were in Haiti. My daughter's 28 now. She's got my first grandbaby who's almost 6 months old and is the most precious thing ever. And mixed babies are great. My daughter's pasty white, ginger. My son's is about as black as you can get. And my grandbaby is like the perfect skin tone, curly, big black hair. And every time I get on, she FaceTimes me 1 or 2 times a day. And as soon as she hears Papa Ken's voice, man, she just lights up. You can see her looking for wherever I'm at.
Yes.
So I took Holly to Haiti when she was probably 13 or 14 years old for the first time. And I'll never forget, we're in Jacmel. This was about 2 or 3 years after the earthquake. I was on the ground in Haiti 5 days after the earthquake doing relief work. And it was one of the most unbelievable things. They were still stacking bodies on the side of the road when I was there.
Wow.
It was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had. But I take Holly there and we're in Jacmel. We're like walking through in the mountains, bringing, food bags and food and relief supplies to families that live in a 10 by 10. Some of them had a roof, some of them didn't have a roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget Holly told me, she goes, Dad, these kids are so happy.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea that they don't have anything. Yeah. And it changed her perspective. And here you are, you've got this big radio show, you're famous, everybody in Dallas knows who you are. But yet when you went and served, when you went into high schools, that was really where the fulfillment came in your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned about going into other countries. My father's actually from Jamaica. And so when I go on vacation and we get a chance to visit our family, it's pretty much the same thing. First of all, you get to do self-reflection and say, well, I have a lot of third world problems, right? I'm always fussing and complaining about what's not going right. I mean, these people are picking their food off of trees and going fishing and you know what I mean? But I love that you said, your daughter said, but they are so happy. And so we've gotten so spoiled by, you know, the access that we have to all of these things. And I often say, like, there's a part of me that wants to go live in another country because I want to make sure that I'm also remaining humble, right? I want to make sure that I'm also remaining grateful and we're remembering the important things of life. And I think those are the things that we forget oftentimes. So I'm so glad that, I mean, your daughter had that opportunity. I actually started a nonprofit organization and I do work with teenagers. And one of our core pillars is exposure. And it's because of things like that, because you don't understand what the real world is outside of your neighborhood, outside of your home. And so you have to see it to understand that, you know, I am actually really blessed, even though I think that I'm not. And I'm looking at other people and I think they have more and I think they're doing more and I think I'm behind and life is constant comparison. But no, like we are blessed. And the reality of it is we're right where we're supposed to be. Even though I struggle with that too.
No, but you know, anytime we struggle with that, when we get the focus off ourselves, we put on other people, it's amazing how that changes our perspective. So you're the voice of Dallas for years, and then it comes time to transition. And you transition from that into real estate, into becoming an agent, into investment properties, into being a philanthropist. Walk me through that journey. How did that happen?
Without going into a lot of details, it was just time for me to make a switch. And if I'm being completely honest, Ken, I think that it was time for me to make a switch way before I did. But I didn't trust God like I was telling everybody I did. I mean, the reality of it, and I thought that I did, right? But I was so comfortable in receiving a paycheck every 2 weeks. And there's another part of that I think people don't talk about when it comes to transition and pivoting. One, the comfort in receiving a paycheck every 2 weeks, but also people on the outside put so much pressure on you. They're like, but you're so blessed. You're so lucky to be in the position. So for years, I beat myself up and thought something was wrong with me. Why am I not seeing what everybody else is seeing? Why am I feeling this weight? This toxicity is wearing me down. Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So in all honesty, Ken, when I did finally make the leap, it wasn't because Jade had this gush of faith that came over her. There were situations that happened that I was like, I'm not going to be able to look myself in the mirror anymore if I continue to, you know, allow these things to happen. So I took a leap of faith. I had no plan.
Yeah.
But my thing was, I will be more mad at myself if I look back and I did not jump. And I had to like literally surrender to God and say, you have to catch me. I have nowhere else to fall. And I'm going to count on you to catch me. So I had kind of been toiling with a little bit of real estate flipping here and there, but it had been nothing serious. And when I tell you, it was not long before God was placing mentors around me. Let me tell you the power of mentorship and the power of community. I had an experience while I was in like media. I really had an experience being on a team where necessarily people wanted to see you win. So I had to literally go through a mental adjusting, and I still deal with it a little bit, where I had to learn to trust that there were people that actually wanted to see me win. It felt foreign to me. It was not comfortable to me. I was waiting on the catch. I was waiting on the rug to be pulled out from under me. I was like, they're setting me up. They're trying to get my money. They want me to invest in these things and this and that or whatever. All I can say is, but God, in all honesty. But I'll also say this has probably been one of the toughest seasons of my life, because when you go from being an expert in one industry to being the baby in the next, imposter syndrome starts to kick you behind. Um, like you
So
start.
how did you, let me ask you a question. How did you process through that? Like what were some of the things you learned about Jade and imposter syndrome walking through? Because you were not in your sweet spot and you weren't in your comfort zone and you weren't in something you knew. Like this is brand new. How did you walk through? How did you get your mindset where your mindset needed to be?
Ooh, that's a really great question. I think I'm still processing through it, but in all honesty, I did go to therapy. Therapy has helped me a lot. Another thing that I learned about myself, I thought that I had to not be afraid in order to move forward. And then I learned along the way, no, I have to do it afraid. Like, because I thought that if I was afraid, that means I'm not believing, it's all that whole confusing thing. So I do things afraid now, and I put myself in more uncomfortable positions than I ever have before. My entire life, Ken, if I'm being honest, has always been very safe. I'm very calculated. I think 10 steps ahead. How can this affect my family? How can this affect me? And changing that mindset has been excruciating, making sure that I'm connected to my Heavenly Father, because there are oftentimes anxiety takes over me. So you do, just in all honesty, I don't think that there is an answer to that. I think that you just have to keep putting one foot in
It's a
front.
process.
Yeah,
It's a process. It's every single day.
Absolutely. The word of God says the lepers were healed as they went.
As they went.
So as I want to get stuck and stay, I just have to keep telling myself, I just got to keep winning. I know that's not a word, but I just got to keep winning. You know what I mean? Like, that's my thing. Just keep winning. Just keep going, Jade. And it is all worked out. It is all working out.
So when you started in real estate and left radio, how long did it take you before you closed your first deal?
I had a couple of, I had a mentor at the time. We were walking through some flip properties, but I did my first one. I was at the radio station, and after that I froze. I'm like, that was good, but that was scary. Since then, let me see. I've been writing checks ever since, Ken, because I didn't have it. I had to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there was a part of me that said, it is finally okay to bet on myself. So it didn't take me very long. Let me see. It took me I just recently did the multifamily. So that was one of the biggest checks that I ever wrote. So that was about a year and a half in. But go ahead.
So in the process there, like, and have you already hit the spot where you're like, I can do this. I can be as successful in this as I did as a radio DJ. Like, I think I understand what's going on.
Heck no, Ken. Are you kidding me right now?
I love it.
Let me tell you what's funny. When I found out I was going to be, I want everybody to understand this. When I found out I was going to be on your podcast, Ken, I was thinking, I don't think I'm far enough along in the process to actually be a really great guest. Cause I'm like, as the leader grows, and I'm like, have I grown yet? Lord, please tell me if I've grown yet. But I think it's important for people to understand that it's okay for you not to be in that sweet spot. It doesn't mean that things are not still working out. Matter of fact, I'm taking a building class right now to learn how to build from the ground up. It's probably one of the most exciting things that I'm a part of. I really, really want to get in the build and development game. And right before the podcast, I haven't purchased my first lot yet, but I literally got a contract for my first lot. And I told myself that by my birthday, I wanted to get my first lot. And I'm probably a week away an exact week away from my birthday.
So let me ask you a question. Like, obviously when you were in school, you did the internship, then you came to Dallas, you got on the radio, got the night shift job. And then now doing this type of real estate, you seem like you're a constant learner. Like you're constantly trying to become the best version of yourself. Where does that come from in you?
I would have to say my parents, in all honesty. They always told me be a student of the game. And I think that being a learner is a sign of humility. But there's a caveat to that, because I've also recently heard, don't be the person that is constantly learning and not applying. So I'm constantly checking myself to say, like,
Yeah.
am I taking all of these courses and all of these classes, but I'm not applying them because I'm giving myself the excuse, like, I'm still a student, I'm still a student. So I want everybody to know, like, when you are learning information, you have that next step is actually applying it, because then it means nothing that you went through these processes, right? And isn't that right, Ken? In order to be successful, you have to be
Two things we need to get to the next level: information and action. And you can
That's
get all the information you want, but if you don't take action on that information, and some people are asking me, like, how in the world do you get to do life with Grant Cardone and Brenda Burchard and Ed Milet and John Max and all the guys? I said, because when they give me information, I put it into practice.
That's good.
Like when I get it, yes, sir, I'm doing it. Like I don't ever look and go, oh, well, I'm not sure I can do that, or I'm not sure if that's the right. No, these guys are uber successful, and when they give me information, I'm going to put it into practice. I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
So let me ask you, if you don't mind me asking you, is there never a time that you're afraid or you're unsure?
Oh, all the time, 100%. Like when you said that just a minute ago, I was like, all the time.
Wow.
I mean, when I pastored my church, I used to tell my staff this. Every quarter, 2-3 times a year, at least, you should look back on the former version of yourself and not even recognize who that person was.
Oof, that's strong.
Because it is a constant growth process. I look back at the man I was. I mean, I'm in day 38 of our next 60 goals. So I am faith, health, relationship, business, and finances, 3 or 4 goals in each area. We set them at my last mastermind. So in my health, I'm on keto, no alcohol, my peptide therapy, and lose my last 25 pounds, which will put me over 100, like in 4 years. Like those goals right there, like I literally I was getting dressed to go to church Sunday morning. I looked down and I went, holy cow, I can see past my tummy. I text Josh, he's a nurse practitioner. He owns Optimize You franchises in Chattanooga. He does all my peptides. I text him, I said, bro, my tummy's flat. Like, this is amazing. Like, and I'm 55 years old. I'll be 56 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like, it's a constant growth process. And that's the one thing I love about your story is you're like, okay, God, put me wherever you want to put me at. And I'm gonna go in there. And you said imposter syndrome. I call BS on a little bit of that for you. You just are like, okay, what do I got to do to get better? Yeah. How can I become the best version of Jay?
You know where that also comes from is being around people that are not self-accountable. And it drives me freaking insane, if I'm being honest. So I think that sometimes I can be overly tough on myself because I'm like, I don't want to be that person that doesn't know how to look in the mirror. My mom used to call it, she was like, girl, sometimes you got to get in there and look at that ugly mirror. It's called the ugly mirror. You got to look at yourself and say, okay, I need to improve my attitude. I need to improve my perspective. I need to improve this, that, whatever. And if you can't look in the mirror and be real with yourself, look, if it's everybody else's fault as to why you aren't where you are, then no, the reality of it is really your fault. There's one common denominator in that. So I think being around people that are always pointing fingers, that drives me freaking insane. And I have a competitive nature in me. I played sports when I was in school, So I'm very competitive, but not against other people. I want to compete against myself. I love how you said, when you look back, have you grown? And I want to get better every year. I don't want to be doing the same things at 30 that I was doing at 25, at 40 that I was even doing at 38. Like, where is the growth? I want to make sure that the growth is something I can see and tangible.
Do you know the first thing I had to do to lose? I'm down 90 plus pounds now. Do you know the first step that I had to take 4 years ago to be able to do that? I had to get on a scale. I had to get on a scale and look at the weight. And when that said 308 pounds, I was like, holy, but I knew, Jade, like I dreaded getting on the scale. I was like, ugh, but I knew what I needed to do. I got on the scale, I took a before picture, and I went straight to social media in front of thousands of people that I know and went, I'm going to lose 66 pounds. Here's my before weight. Here's my before picture. And I'm going to lose it. Because once I get it out there, I can't take it back. And I've been accountable to friends and family and people that know me for the last 50 some odd years. I've been accountable for 4 years. every single. That's why I'm at the gym. You'll see my sweaty picture on Instagram or my Peloton ride. You'll see me all the time doing what I do because it's accountability for me to everybody else that follows me. But you just lean into uncomfortable. Like you're like, oh, what's uncomfortable? Let me go chase that.
I haven't always been this way. I think right now I don't have a choice. What am I going to do? Like I have to pay my bills. I got to figure, like I have to go. I have to do something. I did not have to face all of that when I was in radio. I didn't. There was an image. As long as I uphold this image, I can go for it.
Why do you think some people get stuck there? Because some people, like when they're like, oh crap, what am I going to do? They just kind of freeze. They don't know what to do.
I think there's a couple of different reasons. One, I love your analogy, which is reality. They don't want to get on the scale. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. You want to pretend as if your life is okay. I think the other part of that is a lack of community. I'm going to be honest. I'm not doing this by myself. There are days I want to quit. There are days I don't want to push forward. But having a tribe and great mentorship and great people around me that will remind you of who you are and whose you are when you forget, that is what keeps me moving forward. When I know that I have accountability partners, there are other people relying on me too. That's when I get up and go every day. If I was doing this on my own will, Ken, I probably would have quit and got stuck a long time ago. But
100%.
The reality of it is like, I do have those days. And people are like, excuse me, do you know how far along you've come? Do you know what you've accomplished? Do you know? And I'm like, but everybody doesn't have that, which is sad, right? And that's why, learning about what you do and having these, these growth groups that you have, you don't even I know you do realize, actually, you are the accountability partner for people that you don't even know their name.
You know what's crazy?
That person
is in this next 60 goals, next 60-day goals, like day 10 or 11, my wine shipment from my wine club in Napa comes in. And it's my favorite Viognier. It's my favorite white. It's so good. And it's hot outside in Atlanta right now. It's July. And I mean, man, a cold glass of Viognier at the end of a day is like, thank you, Jesus. And my buddy goes, so are you gonna break your goals here? He said, are you gonna have a cheat day? I said, dude, I can't have a cheat day. No, man, it'll be okay. Nobody knows. I said, dude, I got 36 entrepreneurs who set these goals with me. I got to hop on my WhatsApp group with all these guys every single day and go, day 38, day 36, day 22. Where are you at in your next 60? On track, off track? Where can I help you?
Yeah.
Like I can't, how in the world am I going to hop on a WhatsApp group and go, hey guys, man, I had 2 glasses of Viognier last night. Holy cow, it was the best wine I can't do that.
No.
Why? Because I'm accountable to a community and a group of people and relationships, which is why I started what I started. Yes. Because I'm the loneliest journey, probably outside of being a pastor, is being an entrepreneur. Because you can't walk into certain rooms and go, I want to do this. You can't walk into your family's Thanksgiving dinner and go, I'm going to build this. Because they look at you and go, girl, you grew up on the south side of Dallas. Like, what you talking about? Like, you can't do that. Like, they just because they don't have the perspective to be able to look and go, oh, okay, you can do that. So, boy, but when you get around rooms like that, and you're in rooms where somebody says something, you're like, you say, I want to do something, and the rest of the room goes, okay, let's figure out how we can. Let us get together and figure out how we can help you get that done.
Yeah, that is priceless. For those people that don't have that, I often say, sometimes you have to invest in yourself to be able to get into those rooms, right? I've written a couple of checks this year, larger checks than I've ever written in my life to be a part of some accountability groups. Mm-hmm. I do have mentors, but there are programs, there's information that I wanted to get. There are people that are doing what I want to do that I'm like, they may not know my name. They may never know my name, but they have something that I need. And so I'm willing to invest in, be a little bit more disciplined, have delayed gratification in other areas of my life to invest to get in the rooms with these people. So
what's been your most fulfilling thing about this journey, being in real estate and being an investor and doing some philanthropy work? What's been the most fulfilling for you?
I I think as I'm still going through this process, one of the most fulfilling things is when people tell me you're inspiring me to bet on myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, don't get it twisted. To be able to say I own 133 doors, to be able to, which is to most people, that seems like nothing, that are like big time investors, right? But that's a good start for me to be able to say that I've done so many flips, that I'm getting ready to start my development game. Like that's really great for me. But the most fulfilling is that thing of like, it's been fun watching your journey. Jay, I want to do what you do. I said to myself, I was like trying to figure out, what am I put on this earth to do? And it's to inspire and to educate, and knowing that can I be honest with you, Ken? I thought that people were going to look down on me when they found out that I was just doing real estate. You go from this like kind of foo-foo job of
You're
media.
A celebrity.
You get to be around the celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how other people see you. And then now you're doing real estate. It seems like one of those fallback on things. So I was like, wow, I'm going to lose all my zhuzh, but people have been so encouraged by it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Keep going. Like, I'm just getting started. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm just getting started. But I love the fact that it's inspiring other people to not just keep going by the run of the mill and what's comfortable, to find something else that you really love and watch it work itself out.
I love that. Final thoughts for our audience today?
Bet on yourself. Whatever you're doing right now, your skills are transferable. How do I go from being on radio to doing real estate? Every skill that I use in radio, I'm still using in real estate, as crazy as that sounds. And that God has put a gift inside of every person that listens to you. I'm going to be honest, Ken, I am not qualified to be on your podcast. Like, there's no freaking way I should be here, right? Look at some of the names that you've mentioned, right? But you've been so kind to invite me to be a part of this platform. That just goes to show that God is mentioning your name in rooms you've never been in. And if he's going to do it for me, he can do it for anybody else.
And great things about that is we have a mutual friend who mentioned your name in a room you weren't in.
Relationships are important. That's my last point.
Relationships are everything.
Yep.
100% everything.
Yep.
Well, girl, I am Lady Jade on Instagram. You guys can follow her there. The Dash Podcast. I forgot your podcast. She's doing everything, guys. Listen, if you're in Dallas, Texas, check her out. Agent, speaker, philanthropist, now a multi-family home owner, an apartment complex owner, soon to be developer, going to get her building class. Guys, listen, go follow her over on Instagram. I am Lady Jade. And I love what you said. You inspire people. Like, you inspire people to go, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can put in the work and she can be disciplined and determined and consistent, I can be those things too. Girl, thank you for joining us today.
Ken, you're the best. Thank you so much. This has been so great.
I love you, and I'm super glad to have you. Guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of As the Leader Grows. Again, thank you so much for helping us become the top 1.5% podcast in the entire country. Thank you for sharing, subscribing, doing what you do to help us so we can expand our audience and make a bigger impact and bigger influence. Thanks. We'll see you next week on As the Leader Grows.